In this section, we're going to learn how to troubleshoot EIGRP for IPv4. We just have a basic topology here with two routers that are going to peer over AS number 1, and we'll go through a few scenarios of conditions where you could potentially have problems with bringing up your EIGRP peering between your two neighbors. The first scenario we're going to look at is if we do not have the same autonomous system configured between our routers. So you can see we currently have an EIGRP peering on AS number 1 between R1 and R2. Let me start some debugs here. So we'll run debug EIGRP packets on both routers here before I break things. So I'll say router EIGRP2 and then add my network statements, and we'll see what happens here. So we can see here that R2 is sending EIGRP hellos with autonomous system number 2, and R1 still sending its hellos with AS number 1. Since they do not match, this peering will not come up. So let's put router 2 back to normal here. So we'll do the same exact configuration, but with autonomous system number 1, so they match. And there you go. Just by making their autonomous systems match, the peering came right up, and we are back to normal with our EIGRP adjacency. Next, we'll make R2's F00 interface be on a different subnet so that R1 will no longer see hellos from a device on a common subnet. 00, I'll just say IP address 172.16.100.0.2, and then I have to enable that for EIGRP. Alright, let's see what we get here. Let's turn our debugging off. To turn your debugging off, just run undebug all, and that'll turn all of your debugs off. And now we can see in the logs here that both routers had log messages. They're actually not even debugs, they're just logs that are popping up on our console saying neighbor not on common subnet. So clearly EIGRP will not form an adjacency if the routers are not talking to each other on a common subnet. Let's put its IP address back to what it should be. And we should see the peering come right back up. And there we go. Now that we're on a common subnet, our adjacency is formed. Okay, our last scenario I want to cover is if we had mismatched K values. If we run the command show IP protocols, we can see what our K values are. K1 is turned on with a 1, and then K3 is enabled with a 1. And that is currently the same on both routers. Let's go to R2 and change our K values from the default so that we have mismatched K values between these two routers. You can change your K values by going under your EIGRP configuration and saying metric, weights, type of service, and then you put in an entry for your K values. Well, 1 is the default for K1, so to make it different than R1, I'll make it 0. And then right away, we can see that the peering went down because of a K value mismatch. So your K values must match for your peering to form. Let's put it back. There you go. So you got to see some debugs and just log messages, how much that can help. Honestly, one of the best techniques for troubleshooting, first look at your log. Your log is going to tell you so much. If we just looked at our log right away, I happen to have logging console running, so the logs were popping up on our screen, but sometimes people will log into routers for troubleshooting and forget to look in the log. And sometimes your job can be done instantly because you'll see right in the log what the problem is and be able to correct it. Personally, if I had to troubleshoot EIGRP routers from forming an adjacency, I probably would run the command show IP EIGRP neighbor first. If the neighbor was down, then I would look further. So then I would go and check to see if I even had any EIGRP interfaces to make sure that my interfaces weren't passive and not participating in EIGRP. And then after running show IP EIGRP interfaces, probably run show run pipe section router. If I can type here, just to see what the configuration looks like. See if anything jumps out to me there. And then if all else fails, you can run show IP protocols just to do a basic comparison of things like your autonomous system value and your K values.